Welcome back, guys, to the simulated 12-team playoffs for last college football season. We have the information right here, and our first game is Washington versus Penn State. And the reason Utah is at 4 is because they decided that the champion from each conference will get an automatic bye from the 4 best. So our 4 best conference champions are Georgia, TCU, Michigan, and Utah from the final rankings. So let's first simulate this Penn State versus Washington game. Let's get over here to Penn State. And then we're going to go over here to Washington. Turn on home field advantage and let's see who's going to win in the simulation. It will be Washington by just 2 points. And that is a good win for Washington as it goes 30-28. And the Washington Huskies will beat the Penn State Nittany Lions and will face Georgia in round number 2. Right here we have Ohio SR, I should say Ohio State, that is my bad. But we have Ohio State, and the reason they are not number 4 is because they did not win their conference. So we have Ohio State against USC. So we have to see here who will win, and there will only be home field advantage for these round 1 games here. Once we get into round 2, I will uncheck the home field advantage box. But here we go. And the final score is Ohio State winning by just 2 points against the USC Trojans, 48-45 in the win for the Buckeyes. And Ohio State will move on to play against Utah in the championship. Oh, shoot. Alright, next up we have Florida State against Alabama. The home team in this one will be the Crimson Tide. And the away team, we'll have to select Florida State in this one. So here we go, Florida State versus Alabama. Let's see who comes away with the victory. It will be the Crimson Tide over the Seminoles, with the final score of 24-10 in this one. Alabama will move on to play Michigan. And here we go. Now we have number 7 Tennessee against Tulane in this one. Got the Battle of the T's, Tennessee versus Tulane. One from the SEC, one from the American. And the winner of this one will be the Tulane Green Wave over the Volunteers. Our first upset and a shocker. I wouldn't really call Washington and Penn State an upset, but this one, man oh man. Who knows with Tennessee? They always lose. They're not good. score is 27-30. Tennessee is going to lose in round number 1. And as we uncheck the home field advantage box, we will find my favorite team from the state I live, the Georgia Bulldogs, here against the Washington Huskies. Here in round number 2, I would not be happy if my team gets eliminated in the first round. Let's see what happens in this one. The final score is Georgia 10, Washington 32, and the back-to-back champions are eliminated in a shocking fashion in round number 2. Unbelievable. The number 1 seeded Georgia Bulldogs lose 10-32. Even though I've been looking at this, Washington only won 60 times out of 437 simulations, and the Dogs won 377, and 240 of those, over 50, were by over 20 points. Anyways, I'm just a little bit salty that my team was eliminated. We need to move on to Ohio State. Should have scrolled too far. We move on to Ohio State against Utah here in this one. I really would love to see Ohio State get eliminated in round 2, but I don't know if that's going to happen. Here we go. Let's click the button to submit the simulations. And Ohio State is going to smack Utah with a final score of 54-28. And there's clearly an Ohio State bias in this website, NCAA Game Simulator. You can do any sim you want, any of these. I'll put a link to this down in the description below. But next up we have the Michigan Wolverines against the Alabama Crimson Tide. Michigan, the school of Jordan Poole, taking on Brandon Miller from basketball and the Alabama Crimson Tide. And the final score is Michigan 26, Alabama 20. A terrific result here, as there is not a single SEC team remaining. A shocker at that. In the next one, we have 2, in my opinion, mid-schools next year. They're both going to be extremely mid, but this year they weren't. We have TCU against Tulane here in this one. Another one with Tulane, the battle of the T's. Tulane versus TCU. Here we go. The sim is done, and TCU wins 45-7 in this one. So 45-17 in this one. So we will have a rematch of the Fiesta Bowl with TCU and Michigan. Let's see if it will be as high scoring and entertaining as that one. But before we get to that, we must do the Ohio State versus Tulane game. Washington game, to see who makes the national title game at this. So here we go. The Washington Huskies versus the Ohio State Buckeyes. And the win goes to the Buckeyes of Ohio State, 38-24. In an unbelievable fashion, the Buckeyes of Ohio State are in the championship and they have the opportunity, they might, to get another chance to finally come out on top against Michigan, something they haven't been able to do in 2 years straight for the Buckeyes. I mean, that's very embarrassing if I were a Buckeyes fan. I mean, losing to your rival 2 years in a row. Let's see if they'll have another chance. They won't. The TCU Horned Frogs will come out on top with a final score of 34-26. And the national championship between Ohio State and TCU is about to go down. So up first, we have the higher seeded team, the TCU Horned Frogs, against the Ohio State Buckeyes. Let's see. The Submit the Sim, Ohio State versus TCU. Who's gonna win? It's the TCU Horned Frogs. A high score of 23-40. An unbelievable champion. The TCU Horned Frogs, national champs. The TCU Horned Frogs right here are your national champions. At last, the Horned Frogs do it in amazing fashion. What a win. Here's the final bracket. The most shocking game to me was Georgia getting blown out by 22 against Washington, who would go on to lose in the next round. And another shocking game that I saw was TCU destroying Ohio State in the championship by a score of 40-23. Alright, thank you all for tuning in to this one. We got loads of these type of videos coming soon. So you have a lot of them. The jersey things, they just didn't work out. They did not do well. So we will be ending that series early. But we may revisit it in a different fashion later down the line. Alright everyone, have a good one. Peace.